I want to talk about a subject that I sort of glossed over in the other videos, and that's layers. I want to show you in this video how to effectively use layers in your drawings. And once you see how easy it is to use layers in your drawings, you'll realize that layers really are our friends. Now, layers will give you the ability to try different arrangements of track and building and other items in a drawing. And that's because layers act like multiple pages that are overlaid on your drawing. And these pages can be turned on and off, and allowing you to look at different ways of laying things out. I'm not sure of the number of layers you can have, but I was able to turn on 525 layers before I got bored and started worrying about wearing out my mouse button. So let's see how to turn on layers. There are several ways that you can turn on the layers panel. The first is in the home. You come up here and you go to layers, click it, and now you got the layers panel here. The other way of doing that is if you have a shortcut like I do, you can turn layers on from there. And probably the easiest way to turn layers on is just anywhere on your screen, right-click your mouse, come down and hit layers. And there's your layers panel. Now, most of the time when you're drawing in CAD, you don't really need to have the layers panel visible, and it does take up drawing space. So when you don't need that panel, just go up and you click the X and it goes away and you get that drawing space back. And when you need it, just right-click, hit layers, and it will come back, and then you'll be able to change layers, which we'll show you in a moment. So let's go over this layers panel. I'll show you how to add layers to it. Up here, it says layer name. It's got a light bulb, a lock, and an X. We don't worry about this X. Down below it are our layers. And right now you'll see that this one is in green, and that means it is the active layer. And when you're drawing and you want to know what layer is the active layer, there are two ways to find out. If the layers panel is open, just look for which box is green. If the layers panel is not open, you can look down at the bottom here and you'll see it says layer 1. And that means that that is the active layer. Now let's add some layers. You just come up here and click Add Layer. So now we have layer 2 and we have layer 3. And you'll notice that each time I click that, the new layer becomes the active layer. It's in green here, and down at the bottom it says layer 3. So every time you add a layer, that becomes the active layer. Now, having it say layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 is all fine and good, but it's not very descriptive. So you can rename these layers. You come up and you select the layer, double click on it, highlight it, and then put in whatever name you want for that layer. So let's make this layer track. Hit enter. And layer 2, let's say we want that to be buildings. And layer 3, we want it to become industrial. Now, I can keep this arrangement that I have, track, buildings, and industrial, but I can also order them. I can order them either ascending alphabetically or descending alphabetically, and you do that by coming up here and clicking on layer name. And now you'll notice that they are ascending top to bottom, or is that descending? I'm not sure. But it's alphabetical now, buildings, industrial, track. If I click it again, it's now descending alphabetically. It goes track, industrial, buildings. So let's put it back to ascending. Now this is good, but in your layout, you're going to have different areas that all are going to have buildings, industrial sidings, and different types of trackage. So how do we keep track of all of that? Well, we can't do nested layers, meaning that I can't have buildings and then have subgroupings down here for different areas. In fact, I don't know of any CAD program that you can do that. I haven't run into one. But what I found you can do is you can rename them using numbers, and let me show you that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to rename these. And I'm going to use numbers, and all of my numbers from 1 to 9 are going to start with a 0, and you'll see why in just a moment. So let's do this. Let's say that we want the first group to be 0, 1, and we're going to call this benchwork. And we're going to put it all in caps. Then we'll come down here and we're going to say that our next grouping is going to be track. So let's rename that, and we're going to call that 02 track. And down here we're going to make this one 03 buildings. Now, why did I put that 0 there? I put it there because of the way AnyRail will arrange layers. So let's add a couple more layers. Now, we're going to make this layer, we're going to call this layer layer 10. We'll call it dogs. We're going to call this layer 1 cats. And we're going to call this layer 3 birds. Hit enter. Now watch what happens when I ask AnyRail to arrange these. And just ignore this 0, 1, 2, 3 for right now. We're only going to concentrate on these 3 right here. So let's arrange them. And you'll notice that it went descending 3, 10, 1. If we go the other way, it goes 1, 10, 3. Now, if I come up here and I say, make that 0, 1, and make this one 0, 3, and now I ask it, you'll notice it goes cats, track, birds. Hope that's not too confusing with these other in here. We're only concentrating on these 3 here, but you can see by adding in the 0, it puts them in the right order. So now dogs at 10 is down here. Okay, let's lose our cats and our birds and our dogs for just a moment. And now we're back to 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. So let's add some items into our drawing, and I'll show you how to arrange them. So we want to add some tracks. So let's go here and let's make our track layer the active layer. We'll click on it. It's now green, and you'll notice at the bottom it says track. Now anything we add in from now on is going to come in on the track layer. So let's just put some items in. So let's put this guy in. We'll move him up here. Let's put that in. We'll move him here. And let's go, that looks good. We'll put that right there. So now we've added 3 items. And let's pretend that these are on different areas of our railroad. So you can check what layer an entity is on by going and hovering over it and then looking down at the bottom. And down at the bottom, you'll see on the left it says O2 track, and then to the right of that it says O2 track. And it also tells you what the piece of track is. Now let's say I wanted this piece of track and anything else I have connected to it to be called the main line. And then I wanted this piece of track and whatever is connected to it to be called a passing siding. And then I wanted this piece of track to represent an industrial area. So what can I do here? I only have one layer that says track. Well, what we do is we add another layer. And we're going to rename it. And we're going to call it 02 because it's on the 02 track layer. We're going to put in a decimal point, and then we're going to add 1. Then we'll give it a name. Now we want this one to be a passing siding. So let's add a layer. Let's give it a name. And we're going to call it 02 because, again, it's a track layer. And we're going to call it 3. I like to skip because it gives me some area in between, but you can put more in between than just one digit. So let's call this passing siding Vallejo. Hit enter. And then let's add one more. And let's call this 02.5 Amalgamated Fish Processing. That sounds like a good name. And now you'll notice when I added the layers, it now started putting them in order. So we have O2 track. Then underneath that we have O2.1, O2.3, O3. This guy is out of order. We can just come up here and do this. And now everything is in order. So you kind of have a main heading here, a main heading for your layer, track, and then you have all these sublayers here. And I like to capitalize the main heading for a group of layers because it sort of just sets it apart, because you can't make these different numbers. It will turn red, but I'll show you why it turns red in a little bit. Of course, I just showed you one way you can set up your layers, and I just used benchwork, track, and buildings. Now you can put anything you want in there. You could break up your layout by town. You could have the individual towns and then sub-layers for each part of that town. It's up to you how you want to set it up. So now we need to move these guys around. So we'll come over here. We hover over this guy, and you'll see down at the bottom our active layer is 02.5. Doesn't matter. And this piece of track is on the 02, but we want it on the 02.1. So we're going to select it. We're going to come up here where it says layer. Pull down the drop down, hit mainline. That's all you got to do. Now, you come back here, hover over it, and it says our active layer is still amalgamated fish processing, but now our piece of track is on the 02.1 mainline layer. And you can do that for any entity you want. It can be buildings, it could be trees, it can be track, it can be anything. You can move them around that way. So let's do this guy. We'll click on him. We want him to be on the passing siding. So we'll click that. Check it. Yep, he moved to 02.3. Select this one. Hover over it, 02.5. Now you'll notice if I select it and highlight it, you lose the designation down at the bottom for what layer it's on, which is kind of interesting. It's still telling us that we're working on the 02.5, but it doesn't tell me what layer that piece is on. You have to hover over it to see what layer you're on. Now, you probably notice over here that it's cut off the names of our layers. And there are two things you can do to see exactly what it says. I can hover over the box and it will come up and it will give me the full name there. Same thing here with this passing siding. Or if I want it visible all the time, I can grab the panel, the side of the panel like that, and drag it out. But when you do that, you start losing drawing area, which is one reason why I say, don't keep the layer panel all open all the time. Let's put that guy back. And I'll show you why. Let's get rid of it. And let's say you changed your mind and you want this piece of track to be in the fish processing plant. So what you do is you could come up here. You can highlight it. And change it that way. You don't even need the layer panel open. And then if you wanted to add another layer, just click anywhere in your drawing. And there it is. Now also, if you have the layer panel off and you wish to change your active layer, you're going to have to turn it back on. And then go and change your layer that way. And then you can turn it off, and now everything that you are going to be drawing will now be on the 02.1 mainline layer. Okay, let's turn the layer panel back on. And let me explain all of this stuff here. Now the X's are kind of self-explanatory. It means you can delete a layer that way. So what you do is you select the layer you want to delete, and it will say, "Are you sure?" And you either say, "Yeah, sure, I want to delete that layer," or "Uh-oh, no, I don't want to do that." And we're not going to do that right now. Now on this side are light bulbs. And when the light bulb is yellow like this, that means that layer is visible in your drawing. Now you'll notice that our active layer, the light bulb is grayed out, which is kind of counterintuitive, but you're still seeing that layer, even though it's grayed out. Now I can turn these layers on and off. If I don't want to see something, I can turn off like the buildings, I can turn off the benchwork, and I can turn off different sections of track in my design. And all I do is I click on that little light bulb, and you'll notice that the passing siding went away. And I click on this one, the industrial went away. Turn it back on, and there they are. In order to turn off the main line, I have to be working on a different layer. So let's go down to this layer. And now I can turn the main line on and off. And you'll notice that it grayed this one out. When a layer is hidden, the light bulb is empty. The layer that you are working on, the light bulb is gray. And when a layer is visible, it's yellow. Now I can come up here and I can say, I want to turn off everything. And I can click this light bulb here. And everything went away except for my active layer. So that's a good way to turn off everything in a drawing except the layer that you were working on. Now, the lock. And when you lock a layer, you cannot affect it in any way. You can't draw on it. You can't do anything to it. So let's take the main line, this piece of track here, and let's lock it. And you'll notice that the font has changed and it's also turned red. Now, if I come over here and I select this piece of track, you'll notice that the little handle up here is now red. I can't rotate it. I can't grab it and move it. I can't do anything to it. And this is handy if you have entities that are close together. So let's say we have two entities that are really close together and I only want to work on this one and I don't want to accidentally grab this one and do anything to it. I just lock it. So now, even if I highlight it like that, I can't move it. But if I make a mistake when I'm grabbing down here, I won't affect this locked layer. And again, I can lock and unlock all the layers simultaneously, except for my active layer by using this lock symbol up here. So light bulbs mean you can see a layer or turn a layer on and off, and the locks mean you can lock a layer so that you cannot edit it in any way. One more thing you can do when you are adding layers. So let's say that we want to do a sublayer to this layer. I can add more digits to the right of that decimal point. So I can come in here and I can add a layer and I can say that this layer is now going to be called the 02.31 layer. And let's give it a name. And I'm just giving them silly names just for demonstration purposes. So let's call this a passing siding east switch. Hit enter. Now come up here and I will arrange the names. And you'll notice it now goes 02, 02.1, 02.3, 02.31. And I can keep going. I can keep adding in a sublayer to this layer, to the 02.3. Makes sense? Meaning that if I wanted to add a sublayer here that's only tied to the amalgamated fish processing, I would make a new layer that would be 02.51 or 02.53 or whatever I want, and come up here and arrange it and they'll drop in order down here. All right, so let's take a look at what this means in a real drawing. So let's open this drawing down here. And this drawing may look familiar. It's slightly changed from a drawing that we had in an earlier video. And I have a lot of layers out over here. Now I can go around and I can see what layer things are on by hovering over it. This one is part of the main line. If you look down below, 01.1. This says 04.1, industrial version 1. I'll explain the version 1 in just a moment. This building comes up on 04.3, industrial version 2. Over here is our little engine service facility. So you can go around and you can see, and I showed you how to change things. So if I didn't want this on one layer, I could click on it, come up here, put it on a different layer. Now I mentioned you can try different track arrangements and you can have different layouts of buildings by using layers and turning them on and off. And that's exactly what I did in this drawing here. So I used the engine service facility, this piece of track in this building, for the example. And over here you'll see I've got a main layer, 03 engine service. Then I've got 03.1 engine service version 1, 03.11, and then down here I got 03.3 engine service version 2, and version 2 buildings with a 3.31. So let's turn off these two. And then let's look at the other arrangement. Turn it on. So I added a switch. And now I put in a little engine house. It says blower house, but it's standing in as an engine house. And now I can look at this and I can go, yeah, you know, I kind of like that. But let me look at the way it was before. Turn them off. Now I'm back to this. And I can go, well, yeah, you know what? I think I like this better. Okay. So this is what I want to do. Now, how did I do that? And this is kind of an interesting dilemma when you do this. Let's turn that off. Turn this back on. So let me show you how I put in that other trackage. Now you'll notice that this piece of track is connected to this switch. And we have to break that because we want to connect our new track to the end of the switch. You can't have two pieces of track connected to the same point of another piece of track. So I can't lay another piece of track here and have it connect. I have to come up here and I have to disconnect this guy. So we're just going to disconnect him like that. Now we want to add in our other track. So we're going to come over here and we're going to turn off those two layers. And that gets rid of our building and our service track here. Now let's turn these guys on. And that's what we want it to look like. And you'll notice up here, it's not connected. If I want to connect it, now I can do this. I can move it and then till I get the blue dots and then let it snap into place. And now it's connected. So if you wanted to keep this arrangement, then that's what you would do. Let's undo that. Let's move this out of the way and let's move this out of the way. And I'll show you how I built that up. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the layer that we want to work on. So we're going to go to the 03.3, which is the engine service version 2. And it probably should be named engine service track version 2. And we're going to make that our active layer. Then we're going to come up and we're going to grab a number 5 left-hand switch. And we're going to connect them. We're going to cut it. Pull that out of the way. Put that right there. Let's stretch him out. Something like that. We're going to add parallel flex. And we're going to put it 2 inches and below this piece of track. And we're just going to stretch this guy out a little bit. And we're going to put in our cut right about there. Grab this, select the piece, say smooth flex, look down below. We got about 24-inch radius, so that's pretty nice. So now all of this, if you look down below, is on the 03.3 layer. Now we want to add in this building, which is our engine house. So we're going to change to that layer. We can lose that one. Then let's go up and get our building. And that's a Walthers 9332957. So let's go down and look for that. There it is. I'm going to bring it in. And you'll notice it doesn't quite match how we want it to look. So I showed you how to do angles in another video. So what we're going to do here is we are going to zoom in on this guy. And we're going to look at his endpoint. And we're going to come up and we're going to say that endpoint is at an angle of 112.87. Now we know everything comes in at 90 degrees. So we want to rotate this guy counterclockwise 112.87 minus 90, which is 22.87 degrees. So we'll just say rotate, and we're going counterclockwise, so it's a positive number, 22.87. Hit OK. There's our building. It's perfectly aligned. And we can drag our building over like that. And then we just say send backwards. Click it twice, send it back behind both of these pieces of track. Then we'll zoom back out. There's our new track arrangement. Now, the way I rotated this building is the same way I rotated this building over here. I just grabbed the endpoint, looked at what angle it was at, and then subtracted 90 degrees from that to get the proper angle for this. So that's the way you can put in a building and then align it to track. Let's lose all of this over here. Okay, so now we have our new track arrangement, and we can go over here. We can turn it off. Now remember, I can't turn off this layer, so I have to go to another layer in order to do this. There's our original arrangement. I don't really like that. I want to look at this one again. Yep, I like this one better. Now you can do this all over your layout. You can add in just different arrangements. You can put in different buildings. You can move the buildings around and just turn the layers on and off. Granted, if you do a lot of that, you're going to end up with a lot of layers. But what you can do is, as you refine it, you just come over and you say, well, I don't want that layer anymore. Let's just get rid of it. Sure, okay, fine. It's gone. It's gone. Because I like this arrangement. I don't need those other layers. Now I can put in another layer and I can give it the same name as one I just deleted. Okay, so I think that gives you a good idea of just how friendly and how useful layers can be when you're doing your drawing. I hope this helps, and we'll see you in another video.